And we are late, but
But
we're
live.
live. Better late than never. We got to let it breathe just for a moment here, gang. We had to put the ducks in a row perfectly for your Denver Broncos free agency primer, and we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my partner in crime. You know him, you love him. He is my fellow football priest and the deputy editor of MileHighHuddle.com. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, we've been waiting for this moment for 2.5 months. Finally, it has arrived. We are on the doorstep of the legal tampering period. By this time tomorrow night, deal after deal after deal after deal will have been consummated. How excited are you for at least some actual real news that we can sink our teeth into?
I'll tell you what I'm excited about. The prospect, the probability of the Broncos signing a quarterback this week or acquiring a quarterback not named Deshaun Watson, and we can finally put that storyline to bed. One way or the other, whether they get him or not, I'm just so tired of hearing his name connected to Denver. They might sign an Alex Smith. They might sign an Andy Dalton. If they do, it would, I think, take them out of the running for Deshaun Watson. But yeah, regardless, Chad, we finally have Broncos news this week to sync legitimate Broncos news, not what Bleacher Report or Pro Football Focus is saying, actual news and negotiations taking place and deals getting done. It's going to be hot and heavy starting tomorrow afternoon. And as I said on KK earlier today, don't expect George Paton to jump out of the gates with these multi-year contracts to outside players. He will improve the roster through free agency, but what he's going to focus on first, more than likely, is taking care of his own players, Chad. Hopefully, that means the Simmonses of the world, the Shelby Harrises of the world, the Phillip Lindsays of the world, Tim Patricks, and then go from there. But I'm excited that this week is upon us, and we're getting going.
As we dive into the primer, we'll get things going here. I want to touch on an article you wrote over the weekend that has been viral. I mean, this thing has over 100,000 reads on it already. Headline: ESPN proposes Broncos acquire Russell Wilson in a 4-team trade. That's the headline as we kind of mosey into this thing. It's Bill Barnwell of ESPN. I can go through some of the highlights here, Zach, but explain to our great community, those of them who might have missed this article, what this dude was smoking, if it's realistic. Explain the whole nine.
Whatever he's smoking, I want some, because 4-team trades, Chad, don't happen in the NFL. This is not the NBA. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm so tired of reading this type of content. It's good for business, but it's pure conjecture. I don't think this is going to happen, but Barnwell did propose a 4-team scenario in which the Broncos end up with Russell Wilson. I believe they kick 2 first-round picks to Seattle. They involve the Jets and Chicago, and the Jets would get Tim Patrick and I believe a 4th-round pick. In other words, this is completely improbable, and as of the writing of the article, the Seahawks are the odds-on favorite to retain Russell Wilson, and I believe Chicago was the second highest odds to acquire him. It's not going to happen. It makes for a fun read. It makes for fun imagination, but I don't see Russell Wilson in orange and blue in 2021.
Plus, we know that, I can't remember who had the report, but the Broncos, if he were to be traded, Russell Wilson let it slip through his agent, the 4 teams that he would be interested in.
Right.
The Denver Broncos were not one of those landing spots that.
Yeah, the Cowboys were on there, but they're not, obviously in contention anymore. Chicago and Las Vegas and the Raiders, I believe, they were on Chicago, Las Vegas, and New Orleans. They were on the list as well. And those are the teams that Barnwell connected him to. I don't really think he's traded from Seattle. I think that's less likely than Deshaun Watson. But if he were to get traded, a lot of rumors out there and speculation on Twitter that Chicago is the odds-on favorite. A lot of, people are watching planes and tracking flights. It's getting serious in Chicago for a quarterback, and they want Russell Wilson. Unfortunately for Broncos fans who want him, I don't think it's going to happen. Looks good, though. I mean, it's fun to think about.
He's a little bit older than I think most people realize, because he doesn't seem old, right? When he's on the field, he still looks young when you see him doing PR and he's at the podium. But this dude is going to be 35 this season?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
No. Sure. He's 32. My bad. He was born in 88, so he'll be 33 this fall.
It's still older, I get your point, though, than what you consider him. You think he's in his late 20s, 28, 29, maybe 30, but, quarterbacks have a pretty long shelf life, so I think he has Russell Wilson at least 5 more years of elite high-level play. He would be good for any team he's on, but I just don't see Denver. And, like you said, he mentioned the teams he wants to go to. The Broncos weren't on there. I don't think the Broncos are going to swing a 4-team trade to acquire him either.
I'm just trying to understand why the Chicago Bears. I'm like, is this dude from Chicago? No, he's born in Cincinnati and it looks like he grew up in Richmond, Virginia. So it's curious, that whole concept of why Chicago. But what's going on, Drew? We're going to have Drew on the show, not tomorrow night, but the night after in a week's time. It's going to be a gas. So much to get to tonight, guys, including, we got to start with, really just setting the table on all things free agency, because the barn door, it's about to get kicked open in the morning, early afternoon, actually, tomorrow. And once that happens, man, you can't get the horses back in. So we got to start talking about that here in just a second. We'll get to what's on your mind, your questions, your super chats here in just a moment. But first, what we got to do is we got to say thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream pod and the presenting sponsor of Mile High Huddle's offseason and NFL draft coverage, Manscaped. Gang, there is nothing better than knowing that as a man, you have taken your grooming game to the highest level possible. And the only way to get there is with Manscaped. They've helped over 2 million men around the world elevate their game. And the products that they have, from the trimmers to the different accoutrements, some of the stuff we'll show you here in just a moment's time, it really allows you to embrace the new year, new me mindset. You hear me use that phrase, or all of our shows, we use that phrase a lot because it really is a mindset. Even 3 months now, almost into 2021, everyone, Zach, should try to cultivate, and especially if you have Manscaped as a tool to help you do that.
Everyone should, because again, it's not just below the belt. I say it every single podcast, and I mean it. And I'm going to show off the weed whacker right now, the nose hair, ear hair trimmers. Guys, we're getting into spring now. The weather's warming up. Regardless of what you want to do below the belt, what people normally don't see, everyone sees your face, whether you're virtual, whether you're in person, and you want to look good and you want to look your best. And if you're like me, if you grow hair pretty fast from all areas in my nose and my ears, it's not, flattering or sexy to talk about, but it's a part of life. I promise you guys, I use this more than I want to admit. It holds a charge forever. It's comfortable. It's sleek. It's, you can take it. You can easy to travel with. And again, I have not charged this, and I can't even tell you how long, probably at least 2 weeks. And I use this fairly often. It gets in there, gets the job done. No muss, no fuss. I promise you, if you're on the fence, if you're an ordinary guy who wants to look or feel just a little bit better going forward into 2021, Manscaped is the way to go.
I'm telling you, these crop mops, when I say all the different accoutrements that you can get for your game with Manscaped, it's phenomenal. The crop mops, sometimes when you go to the gym in the middle of a work day, maybe you don't love the way these showers look. Maybe it's not quite clean enough for you. Maybe you don't have time to hop in the shower. Look, dude, you still need to go back to work. You still need to be sharp. You still need to not stink, right? You still need to crop mop every little thing you could possibly imagine. And these were things I was ignorant of until Manscaped came into my life. And in my case, fortunately for us, it was through a sponsorship, but I'll never be the same in the best way. Like I now know what I was missing out on for a long, long time. So guys, head on over to manscaped.com. If you use the code HUDDLE, you're going to get 20% off plus free shipping. And trust us when we tell you, your family jewels will thank you.
That's right. And Chad, that crop mop does come in handy. The female demographic of our podcast does not understand there's sometimes there's stickage. And the crop mop, it's a guy problem. It's not, it's not sexy, but it takes that away. The crop mop's the way to go. But guys, get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code HUDDLE.
All right, guys, just a couple other quick matters of business, and we'll dive right back in. Follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. Also connect with us on Twitter with the main account at Mile High Huddle. If you're following the podcast on Twitter and Mile High Huddle, you'll get everything podcast related, plus breaking Broncos news and analysis in real time. So many of you have heeded our call to action on following the Huddle Up podcast, still brand new Facebook page. But if you haven't done that, just open up Facebook, find Huddle Up Podcast, just search it. You'll see it, like, follow. In so doing, you will enter yourself into our weekly random drawing giveaways for a t-shirt. Last week, I want to say, who was it? I'm not sure last week, but I know just barely we got the delivery on John Libbick's t-shirt that he won simply for following and liking the podcast on Facebook. So take care of that, guys. We got a lot of cool content planned for that page, which is why we're trying to focus on it now and get as many of you over there and following it as possible. But it's also a cool way to get a chance to get that free swag. All right. Speaking of swag, you want to check out huddleuppod.com. and get your swag on. Get a MHH trucker hat. Get the Huddle Up podcast football preset. There's the dad hat. There's face masks, t-shirts, mugs, little something for everybody. We appreciate those who have so patronized that store. I mean, it blew our minds. It still blows our minds. Also, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the content for, if you are a supporter, a subscribing supporter of Mile High Huddle on Facebook. Saturday was phenomenal. Eric Trickle, a.k.a. the Trickle Zone, dropping knowledge at noon, breaking down top 10 linebackers. You hear the names, you hear the schools. You're trying to put it all together. Eric laid it out perfectly. And then, of course, today, Zach blew it out of the water with episode 10 of Kelberman's Corner. And we are still only scratching the surface on this premium video content that we are providing to our subscribers. Right now, it's starting out on Facebook, which is why you want to become a supporter. Just go to our page, click the big blue button at Mile High Huddle Facebook, and you're a supporter. But we're also going to be rolling this out in the very, very near future on YouTube as well. We're going to create a membership option for YouTube, so it's coming down the pike. And you know what, guys? If you can't do those things, it's all good. We're just stoked, seriously, to have you with us. Please subscribe, though, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening or watching, subscribe. If you're in it with us now live, YouTube or Facebook, you guys, please like the video. If we're doing a good job for you, like the video. And if you respect the effort, even if we might disagree on some of the topics, the litmus test is number 3. Share it out there. Help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right, Zach, let's dive into some content here. There's John. What's up, fellas? Got the shirt. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we flashed you. We got you some flex on MHH Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So appreciate you, my friend.
Let me just take this one, Sean. We appreciate you. Thank you for the view. Your viewership is appreciated. Salute.
Yeah. All right. Michaela with a very, very generous super chat.
Michaela.
Good to see you. By the way, the offer still stands, Michaela. If you would like to come on the show at some point, just reach out to us. We do appreciate it. She says, I hope all the MHH people here in Colorado are safe from this blizzard. Yeah, stay safe. Careful out there driving. It can get gnarly out there in the snow, especially in the Rocky Mountains. It gets icy. So if you're driving in this, be careful. But Michaela, appreciate you. It's great to have you.
You know, thankfully or hopefully no windmills in Colorado. Everyone stay safe out there. Inside
Brett's Head says, longtime listener, first time live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Cheers,
SOB,
Broncos
baby.
Country. King of Mox, good to see you. North of the 49th parallel. Oh, and he dropped a super chat. Thank you, my friend. Hey, connect with us on Twitter so that we can shout you out, keep the conversation going, Brett. Appreciate
Would that be Brett Rippon's head?
No, two T's.
Bret Hart?
Real quick here, Andrew wants to know, when does legal tampering open? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. No.
It opens tomorrow. And speaking of which, John, actually, hold on. Let me see. I see we got Aaron, we got Naj. Let's grab those real quick, and then I want to go riff off a couple of great free agency articles that have published here at MHH over the weekend. Aaron, good to see you, my brother. Longtime superstar. Man, you're another guy we should get on the show at some point if you'd like to. This is the offseason. This is the time for us to be able to do that. So if that would be an interest to you, we try to do the superstar segments on Wednesdays. So if you got a Wednesday night where you could peel off 15 minutes, reach out to us, and we'd love to meet you. He says, I can't remember an offseason that has been this interesting for Denver. That being said, I can't wait for it to be over. Glad I'm snowed in so that I can catch another live stream. Cheers, boys. Appreciate that, my friend. I don't know. It is exciting. I would say 2012 was exciting just because you knew the Broncos were courting Peyton Manning. But I think most fans were like me in that you really didn't think that one of the most legendary quarterbacks of all time, especially because he had been known at that point in his career as the Bronco killer. Like Peyton Manning destroyed Denver every time the Colts and the Broncos played. But that offseason, once the Broncos landed him, man, what a whirlwind. That one, Zach, combined with 2014, Ware, Talib, Ward, Sanders, those were the two that jump out to me. We'll see if this one ends up measuring up.
Well, first of all, can I just say I miss football? It was another Sunday today without football, and I'm just already going through withdrawals. But, as much as I'm tired about hearing Deshaun Watson's name and Russell Wilson and these quarterback rumors, I'm excited that we finally have tangible news. We're finally at one of the markers and the milestones of the offseason. The draft is next month, and then minicamp and OTAs, and then training camp in July. It goes pretty quickly. And as bad as the offseason is, it's times like these where, as fans and as, content creators chat, we revel in it. So I'm pretty excited.
Oh, yeah. Man, the rubber's meeting the road right now. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let me see. Do you got Naj? We'll grab Robot of Doom real quick here on Twitch. Appreciate you being with us on Twitch, my friend. Thoughts on Melvin Gordon recruiting Hayward Jr., Casey Hayward, the corner, to Denver? I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but Hayward's getting a little long in the tooth. So what are your thoughts, though?
Well, first of all, he needs to recruit his hands to stop fumbling Melvin Gordon. And second of all, Casey Hayward is predominantly a slot cornerback. He's not really much a boundary cornerback. And the Broncos have their slot guy in Bryce Callahan, who, fingers crossed, should be healthy for 2021. He's going to be expensive as well. It was kind of surprising. I believe it was a salary cap related move as to why he was released, but he's not going to come cheap. And again, the Broncos will, capital W, will add a cornerback on the open market. I just don't see George Paton opening up the checkbook when he cut AJ Boye for that very reason, his salary.
Naj, good to see you, brother. Really, really great to have you in the stream. Appreciate the chat, the super chat.
Thank you, Naj.
Says, hey, Naj, you ever want to come on the show, dude? Reach out. You're another guy that we'd love to meet here on camera, introduce you officially to the community. But if that's of interest to you, DM us or send us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. We'll arrange it. Hey, brothers, have you seen anything from George Paton this offseason that sets him apart from what Elway would have done? I'm curious about your assessment of him. No, just because we don't know yet. We haven't seen any actions aside from a tag going to Simmons, a couple of cuts, AJ Bouye, Jarrell Casey, few other minor cuts. They released 5 kind of futures type bubble guys back in late January, including Elijah Holder, former corner and safety. So we're going to know a little bit more an answer to that question, Naj, probably as soon as this time tomorrow night. We got to see, I mean, other than platitudes, Zach, there's really nothing that we can, nothing empirical we can sink our teeth into to say, look, this is something totally different than what we would have expected John Elway to do. At least at this point, I haven't seen him do anything quite yet that separates, but I do like the things he's saying. That's all I can say.
Well, I mean, he's leading by action, not by words. And Naj or anybody else who's wondering the same thing, I highly recommend you go and watch KK number 9. I went through the George Paton press conference. It was last week. I'm not going to, toot my own horn, but I believe it covered what we're talking about here. I really like how he's handling everything so far. He's telling you what he wants to do, but he's not showing his hand. He's always having the Broncos' best interest in mind. He did not wait to cut Boye. He did not wait to cut Jarrell Casey. He's not waiting to cut the fat around the roster. He's moving in silence. Chap is still getting things done. There's no leaks coming out of the front office. I believe he has the ship very, tight already. I mean, you can see in his press conference alone, because it's all we can go on, the 2 times he's met the press. And it's completely different than Elway. And you've talked about that. I've talked about that. He doesn't go on those tangents. He doesn't get off track. If you go through the transcript of his press conferences, the answer is all right there. He loves name dropping agents. That's one differential, but he's straight to the point. He's measured. He's articulate. I love the way he's going about his business. And even the Broncos have this behind the scenes video content about George Paton and what he's doing so far. And I love the way he's working with the staff. It's all inclusive. When he went to the North Dakota Pro Day to see Trey Lance, presumably he brought Brian Stark, he brought Mike Shula. He believes in staff inclusion. And, that's a word or a phrase we weren't really hearing under John Elway. Under Elway's leadership, it was he's the boss, he's the Duke, he makes the final decision, whereas George Paton, he has final say, but he's taking input and opinions from everyone around him. And for a first-time GM, Chad, I think he's doing a bang-up job.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the show that I don't know if it was just an episode. No, actually, they sent us a press release. It's a series they're doing. Let me show you guys this, and we're going to answer your question on Trey Lance. Just one second, my friend. It's a series they're doing called Behind the Broncos. All right, you guys might have seen me tweet about this just a couple days ago. So there's an episode on YouTube, Behind the Broncos, no shortcuts, Peyton's tenure getting started, basically. Really interesting behind-the-scenes stuff on Paton. But still, again, to get back to Naj, I'm not trying to be a contrarian here. We got to see him make some moves beyond the obvious, like tagging Justin Simmons. I mean, Elway did the same thing. You can't separate him there, right? I would have expected Elway, if he hadn't stepped down, to move on from Casey and Bouye. So we'll see. But let's answer this, Zach, from what is it? Dredo Heaven on Twitch. Thoughts on Trey Lance's pro day? Word on the street, Zach, is that his pro day, you can't read too much into pro days because they are so scripted and crafted, and they work on them. It's like being in a play, right? Where you actually get to rehearse, millions of reps on that. So you don't miss a line. You got everything memorized. You hit your point, you hit your little, place on the stage, and it's perfect, right? that's similar to pro days, but you still do get to see them in action doing their thing. And the three things that I've heard about Lance's pro day, Zach, were impressive footwork compared to the tape in terms of, obviously he's shown some focus, that he's been working on that it's a priority to him to get his footwork a little bit more disciplined. The arm strength, the arm talent off the charts. Arm strength and accuracy were apparently just like, wow, worthy. Like, dang, dude. Like, I heard some people comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. And I know he heard a few of those. There's a few of those comparisons floating out there way early in the pre-draft process, Zach, but now I've heard it more than once coming out of that pro day from people I trust. Doesn't mean you read into it too much, but he did exactly, Zach, what he needed to do. Without a combine, the pro day, he aced it.
He did, but the things you mentioned, arm strength and this and that, and those things weren't really in question. And every quarterback looks good throwing it against air. And prospects pro days, like you mentioned, are so tilted in their favor, even when they run their 40s, that the timer is a tad faster for them, Chad, than compared to the combine or compared to NFL evaluation. But just Google anyone right now, or after the podcast, Paxton Lynch pro day. The first result is a Bleacher Report article saying Paxton Lynch shows potential at pro day to be the best quarterback of the 2016 draft. You really can't say much or take much out of pro days. I want to see what he can do when he's facing an NFL defense, when he's sacked a few times, when he's facing a deficit. That's where you judge a quarterback. And you know what, Chad? Without really making it a lock conversation, that's how Broncos fans had treated Drew Lock. If you want to judge a quarterback based on throwing to air, then you should love Drew Lock as well.
Well said. Orange Crush, good to see you on Twitter. He says, what are the tea leaves on free agent quarterbacks for Denver, or trades? So there's been no new buzz that I've picked up anyway, Zach, on the old Deshaun Watson, other than like the speculation and pure fantasy like we just went through early in this episode with Russell Wilson, the Bill Barnwell piece. As far as anything that's moved the needle forward, advanced the ball it's basically the Deshaun Watson ball is on the 5-yard line. It's on their own 5. And they got 95 yards to go to resolve it, whether that's figuring out a way to make him happy and sticking around in Houston or dealing him away. And up to this point, as far as I've been told, nothing new on that front. But, Zach, that could change very quickly starting tomorrow when the phones just start flying around the NFL. But as far as free agents, guys, I'm not hearing Fitzpatrick. What I'm hearing is Alex Smith, and I'm hearing Andy Dalton. Now, it doesn't mean that's who's going to end up in Denver, but those are the two names I think the Broncos look at from a leadership, experience, fail-safe, mentorship, pushing Drew Lock, all those different components into one guy. I think those are the two that have risen to the top for the Denver Broncos. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's so long in the tooth. I mean, there have already been competing reports. He's going to retire. Nope, he's not going to retire. And based on, what was it, Zach? KK number 8 or 7 or 8. I mean, is he really the guy you want here trying to groom a young quarterback if you do indeed run it back with Drew one more year?
I don't personally want him, but Chad, based on all the reports that have come out so far, he's really the only one that separate insiders connected to the Broncos have said the Broncos contacted him, or they had some sort of contact. Whether he retires or whether the Dolphins re-sign him, whether he wants to start elsewhere remains to be seen, but he's the only tangible quarterback that's been connected at all, realistically and plausibly to Denver. Dalton is out there, like you said. Alex Smith, I believe John Clayton mentioned both those quarterbacks. They're going to make a move, I believe, fairly soon. It could be a guy they trade for out of nowhere, but on the open market, Dalton, Fitzpatrick, and Alex Smith, I think, are the front runners to get that backup / mentor / bridge quarterback job that Peyton is seeking.
Let's take a look here, John. Before I dive into this piece by James Campbell, has some interesting names, Zach, I want to get your thoughts on. Let me just give you a quick recap where we're at. So from Naj, we got Dave from Georgia, Edward, John Houston, Tyler, Fat Cats, Tony, and Brandon, FYI. But here's a really comprehensive article done by James Campbell, another great, for lack of a better term, success story, a staffer that rose up through the podcast community. And he has, he's a guy that when he sits down and puts pen to paper, you have to tell him, all right, man, you got so much to say, you got so much insight, you got a lot of knowledge, keep it focused. And he does it, and it comes off phenomenal content, really good insight. But his piece, Zach, was bargain bin free agents. All right. starting with a couple of offensive linemen. All right, let me just run through these names, and then you tell me if anyone jumps out to you. Ben Garland, most Broncos fans well aware of Ben Garland, former Air Force guy, came to Denver, converted to D-line, then he's converted to offensive line, and he ended up playing pretty well in his limited opportunities last year before he got hurt for the Niners. James Hurst can play a little swing tackle, can play a little interior, former New Orleans Saint. Then we got Duke Johnson. If you really are looking for that pass-catching Band-Aid, again, these are bargain bin guys, right? These aren't the tier one level free agents that you run after. And that's probably going to be, for what it's worth, Peyton's MO is letting the dust settle a little bit, making some smart play type signings. Kevin Pierre-Louis, the linebacker from Washington. Roy Robertson-Harris, interior defensive lineman from the Bears. Then he gets to Akella Witherspoon, which is interesting to me, Zach. This is a really long, good press man corner that came up from CU and spent a lot of Broncos fans were pining for Akella Witherspoon in the draft 4 years ago. And he's had a solid career in San Francisco. Sheldon Rankins, another guy I'm particularly interested in, former interior defensive lineman for the Saints. Tyus Bowser, an edge rusher from the Ravens. Tyrod Taylor, quarterback, if you're looking for that veteran fail-safe / mentor. You know, he did a pretty good job with Baker, if you ask me, and look what happened with Justin Herbert last year. The punctured lung thing notwithstanding for Tyrod. And then Janoris Jenkins. So those are the 10 names, right? This is kind of a, when you sign a guy like Janoris Jenkins, you also hold on for dear life because off the field and just like on the field too, like he's kind of a hot ticket.
Most of these players on the list are injury risks or they're older, and I don't really want to invest in them. Sheldon Rankins intrigues me. James Hurst intrigues me. I think they have to get some defensive line depth, and they have to get, obviously, some offensive line depth as well. But they have interior defensive linemen. They just paid Mike Purcell. I mean, they have Draymond Jones coming back. They have Ajim. They even have Deshaun Williams. Everyone that Bill Collar gets his hands on, he develops. So I'm of the mind to maybe save the money on the defensive line and draft a guy and let Collar go to work. It's going to be bargain bin, and Witherspoon's an interesting case as well. But he, again, like James Wright, he's not the best scheme fit. He's had some injury concerns. If I'm going to spend money, I'm going to get a guy that's fairly dependable, and I think that's what George Payton is going to do. He's not going to really jump out for names, and I don't really think personally the Broncos should prioritize interior defensive line on the open market.
Let us know, guys, which of those particular free agents on the bargain bin side you might like to see in the orange and blue. Dave from Georgia, good to see you, bro. We are getting you on the show soon. When did we have that booked? I'm not sure if I put it in my phone quite yet. I should have. Either way, we got you booked. It's going to be a gas. We're looking forward to that in April, my friend. He says, as a lifelong Broncos fan, I'm once again full of hope for a new season. I'm hopeful that Drew Lock takes a step towards being a successful pro, #Broncos country, #state of being. Yeah, dude. I mean, again, even if there were no changes as far as the GM and it was kind of a business as usual type deal with the Denver Broncos heading into 2021, I'm still betting. I'm not going to go way out way out on a limb, but Zach, I'm betting that an additional year in the scheme with Shermer, additional year with all the different skill position guys, getting back Cortland Sutton, so on and so forth. I still think you're going to see Drew take some steps forward this year if he does end up being given the opportunity.
Yeah, careful, Dave. It's not fashionable. It's not popular right now to be hopeful in Drew Lock, but that's the Broncos quarterback for the time being. He's the starter, and every Broncos fan should hope he does well until that changes, and I think he will as well. I'm not saying it's going to be the year of Drew Lock or he's going to be a 4,500-yard passer, but if he's given a level playing field, meaning less injuries, no pandemic, given a full offseason with Pat Shurmur, God forbid, I think he will surprise. I think the Broncos can be a playoff team with him at the helm, and going forward, that remains to be seen.
Edward Keating, another superstar that we are looking forward to having on the show here in the very near future. Appreciate you, dog. He says, what's up, everyone? Thanks, Chad and Zach, #Denver Broncos for life and state of being, baby. We love it. We absolutely love it. John, we got one from John Houston. There he is. Perfect. John, another great superstar. Every single podcast, you're supporting the cause, and we appreciate you, my friend. He says, do we cut Kareem Jackson and open up $10.5 million on the cap and then sign Keanu Neal? I'm not loving Keanu Neal. I didn't realize Keanu Neal was a free agent, but let's take a quick look here. I wanna eyeball this cat. So yeah, he's 5 years. Was he a first round pick? He wasn't a first round pick.
I thought he was.
Oh, he was. Yeah,
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. 17th overall. So he's coming off his 5th-year option, free agent. Is this a guy you want to pursue?
I think he's going to go to Dallas because his former, head coach is now their defensive coordinator and Dan Quinn, but he never really lived up to his draft billing, and he's had some injury problems. He's been a little ineffective in coverage. I don't know that if they cut Kareem Jackson, would they want to devote money to a fellow veteran player? Would they not want to just fill that hole through the draft? Again, they can draft Richie Grant in the 2nd round. They can draft Jabril Cox to be that dime backer kind of safety back there. You have Simmons already if you lock him down, which I think they will. He's going to be your stud long-term free safety. Just draft, I believe, a hard-hitting, strong safety, an in-the-box guy, and let him go to work with Vic Fangio. If they do cut Kareem Jackson, I don't think they sign his replacement on the open market. I think they draft him.
I agree. Keanu Neal, if he's going to be expensive if the Broncos were to take a swing at a guy like this. You're right, dude. It's all about the draft. And there are some really interesting options in the draft the Broncos could pursue to kind of fill that box safety role. But that's not really how Vic Fangio, at least last year anyway, likes to use his safeties. I mean, basically Simmons and Jackson were interchangeable. Fangio's defense is now becoming known for its two deep shell. There's always the two safeties. The bend don't break requires two safeties always being, the last line of defense. And Jackson in 2019, I think he was used a lot more, Zach, as kind of that box guy, the dime backer. Not so much last year. And I don't know if that's a permanent thing or if that was Fangio's kind of like on the fly trying to adapt to the injuries and whatnot that occurred in the cornerback room. But we'll see. Shelby, from David Bingaman. Good to see you, David. And by the way, I did get your last email. I didn't get a chance to reply to you, by the way. So I'm glad you're in the stream tonight. He says, so is Shelby gone? No deal. By tomorrow, he gets to shop. Yeah, he gets to shop, period. I mean, unless there's a deal announced tonight or first thing in the morning, Shelby's hitting the market. And we kind of knew, Zach, that that's probably the direction this thing was going to go. I think the Broncos are as mystified as the fans and media are in terms of what's his real value. Like, we don't know. That's why they're not making a big push initially is because, they can offer him $9-10 million, get him signed. He'll probably take that money, but they'll never know if he would have been willing to accept 4 or 5 unless they let him hit the market first.
Exactly. They can't negotiate against themselves. And I believe if he had some sort of market or if he had suitors beating down his door, the Broncos would have extended him already. It could be where he settles for a 1 or 2 year contract with the cap being down and the cap going up next year. He might want another prove it deal. I would hope the Broncos take care of him. I don't think he's worth $10 million, but I would easily pay 7 or 8 a year for Shelby Harris. That guy is a stud. He's a baller. He's a homegrown guy who Denver should definitely reward.
And I love the clutch gene. That's my favorite thing about Shelby is when the chips are down and you need that game. I'm not going to say game-changing play, but that game-affecting play.
Game-clinching. I mean, he blocks game, tying or game-winning field goals. He definitely changes games. Single-handedly.
Picks off future Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the end zone, right?
Right.
I mean, tips passes on 4th down like against the Raiders in Week 17, 2019. Just so many little different things in the clutch, man. He comes through, and that's what you need. I don't understand why it's so difficult for the Broncos to kind of get a beat on how important. If you had Jarrell Casey coming back, a fully healthy Casey, let's say last year he played through the whole season, gave you another Pro Bowl caliber year, because when the Broncos acquired Casey from the Titans, he's coming off 5 in a row Pro Bowl seasons. Let's say you got another year like that from Casey last year. He never got hurt. I can understand a little bit more kind of rolling the dice on letting Shelby test the market and perhaps even being willing to let him go. But, dude, behind Shelby, let's think about this for a second. Casey's gone. Draymond Jones, love him, but he's still in chrysalis, right? He's still developing. He's still kind of popping his head out of the cocoon, right? DeMarcus Walker, free agent. Then you get to McTelvin Ajim. Who am I missing? Deshaun Williams. I mean, it's pretty slim pickings. So, Shelby, you need Shelby back. Let's grab Tyler. Good to see you, bro. You're another guy. You want to come on the show? Let's get you on the show. Reach out to us, my friend. You have come on so strong the last couple of months as a superstar, and not just on the live stream pods, but supporting the cause as a supporter on Facebook. So reach out to us, dog. We'll get you on the show. He says, let's win free agency, Broncos country. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Zach, what would that mean to you, winning free agency?
We're not the Washington Football Club of 20 years ago. There's no such thing in this day and age. If you want to build a winner, the Bucs notwithstanding of winning free agency, it's all about winning the draft. And the Broncos have a general manager now in George Paton who has told you twice he believes in building through the draft. So no, if you expect the Broncos to win free agency, you're going to be disappointed. They're not going to win free agency. And the teams that usually do, look at the 2010 Eagles, Chad, that super team, but Nnamdi Asomugha and Michael Vick. How did that work out? You use the open market signing period to sprinkle some talent throughout your roster where you need it. You fill holes here and there, but you save the majority of your roster building, if you're smart, for the draft. And the Broncos have a smart man in the front office in George Paton who believes in doing just that.
Real quick, John, I'm going to grab this one from Facebook, and then in between Tyler, his super, we got Fat Cats, Tony, and then I've got Brandon at 651. So Fat Cats and Tony I don't have. John on Facebook wants to know if there have been any updates on Von Miller's.
That's an appropriate typo.
Almost. Hey, no charges, right? No, there is no Con Miller. But hey, it's a concern, man. We're wondering. I know that James Palmer is reporting that the Broncos, Von has continued to show up at the building, which is a really good sign. It wasn't just that one pop in, hey, what's up? He's continued to show. There have been ongoing talks. The Broncos want him back. They're trying to find a way. Basically, what it comes down to, Zach, is I think if Von's camp, because if you're George Paton, what you're doing right now, hopefully, is you're on the phone with his rep saying, hey, look, Von is a part of our future. We need Von. We're about to turn the ship around here in Denver, but we need Von to be that John Elway figure from 1997 and 98 who says, look, I'm willing to take less money. I'm willing to renegotiate my contract, take a little bit of a step back because, look, I've come a long way. I've made a lot of money. I've accomplished a lot as an individual. From a team perspective, though, if I want to be able to get out there and compete in the AFC and get all the way to the Super Bowl, we need Neil Smith, right? We need a few fine, who was it? Ed McCaffrey. We need Howard Griffith. These free agent acquisitions that if the money isn't loosened up on Elway's end, you don't have the means to sign those guys. And each one of those three contributed hugely to the Broncos' back-to-back world championships. So, Zach, that's the message Peyton's got to be delivering to Von. But if Von is indifferent to that type of persuasion, I think the Broncos end up just picking up his option and saying, look, we'll live to fight another day a year from now.
I did see the latest Palmer report. He does a great job with that particular story. What I got out of what he reported was the Broncos are kind of trying to lowball Von Miller. They're kind of being a little cheap with him. And listen, I totally get you want to reduce his cap number. He's being paid way too much money for not a lot of production in the last couple of years. But if you have, the fifth most salary cap space, if you have $35-40 million right now with the opportunity to add more, and you're nickel and diming a future Hall of Famer, a cornerstone player over a few $1 million, that's not a great situation either. So George Paton's kind of walking a tightrope here. He wants to appease Miller and keep him around, but not overpay for him and do damage to his team or his potential roster building. The longer this goes, and I said that no news is good news in the Von Miller investigation, and we were right about that, but I believe the longer this goes now without hearing anything, it's not great news for Von Miller. If they wanted to get this done, Chad, they've been talking for a few weeks now, at the very least. He's in the building. Last week, Von Miller, he met George Paton. It has to get done, I think, and the longer it doesn't happen, it's the less likelihood, I believe.
Tony G wants to know, and thank you for the super chat, Tony, where can I find the merch, fellas? Enjoy the podcast. I just put the link in the chat, but huddleuppod.com. That's the merch store, huddleuppod.com. And you can, there it is, huddleuppod.com. Links in the chat. You can click that and navigate directly to. Fat Cats, good to see you, brother. Really appreciate you. I mean, it's every single Huddle Up podcast. You're in the stream. You're contributing to the conversation. You're supporting the cause. We salute you. Thank you, my friend. He says, what's the bigger risk? Taking it back with Locke another year or drafting a rookie quarterback with no NFL experience, hoping he takes us to the playoffs in year one? I mean, that's the bigger risk if you're Vic Fangio. I mean, it really just depends on your priorities. Zach, is it short-term gain or long-term gain? If it's short-term, it's Locke, all right? If it's long-term and you're not sold on Locke, then you say, look, let's see about a Trey Lance at 9. Let's see about if we can move up and get Justin Fields or even Zach Wilson. But if you think a rookie is going to come in here and save Vic Fangio's job in 2021, it's not going to happen. It's very few exceptions. I mean, even look at Justin Herbert. You guys hear us say this all the time on this podcast. Puts up the most prolific rookie quarterback season of all time, and the Chargers, below 500. It couldn't overcome the other holes and issues that team had. So if you're Vic Fangio, the bigger risk is taking a quarterback in round 1 because that changes the narrative. You're going to have to play him at some point this year. Odds of you making the playoffs dip dramatically.
To your point about Herbert, I mean, look at Deshaun Watson. He led the league in passing. The Texans went 4-12. There's never any guarantees in the NFL. But in this particular scenario, the Broncos, and we all already know what Drew Lock is or can be. He's already accomplished at the NFL level. He's played at this level. He has experience. That's indisputable. A rookie, any rookie, whether it's Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Kellen Mond, they don't have that experience. They haven't played yet. So yes, a rookie over a third-year player is infinitely more risky than anything else. So if the Broncos want to preserve Fangio's job, if they want to win now and stay in contention, the smart bet, like we've been saying, might not be popular, it might not be sexy or fun, but running it back with Drew Lock is the most likely outcome for that scenario.
And Drew's pissed, dude. Drew is a motivated cat right now. He really is. So I'm curious to see, man, if he does get that opportunity, I'm really curious to see if he can run with it because he showed some serious signs down the stretch. I mean, he gave us all cause for some pretty big time misgivings from week 6 through, week 10. And even most of the way through week 8, actually. Then he gets that come from behind win, beats Herbert. And then he slides again week 9. You're like, what is going on, Drew? Week 10, same thing. And then starting in that Dolphins game in week 11, man, he turned it around. Now, it wasn't blow your mind level Patrick Mahomes phenom quarterback play, but it was significant, serious steps forward, especially relative to that slump he was in midseason where he showed so many signs of regression. Multiple steps forward. It just wasn't enough to leave no doubt. That's why Peyton's continuing to look, but don't be surprised if they run it back. Brandon, a.k.a. Bama Broncos, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the super chat. He says, if Broncos draft running backs in rounds 1, who would you target? Is that what he's saying? If Broncos draft backs in 1 round, who would you target?
Either if they take a running back or take a running back in round 1. And
or maybe
they're not going to take a running back in round 1. I'm not sure.
Well, if they did, it's Najee Harris. Word on the street is they like Najee Harris, the Alabama running back. So
everyone does. They should. He's a phenomenal talent.
He's a stud, but do you want to spend a first-round pick? You think, nah, but then you look at what Peyton's Vikings did. I mean, they spent 1 or 2 premium round picks on, and when I say premium, we're talking about rounds 1, 2, or 3 on running backs. So don't be stunned if they do. But especially, Zach, because even like guys like you and I who are big fans and supporters of Phillip Lindsay, both Lindsay and Gordon are entering a contract year. So by this time next year, they could have, you're going to have Royce Freeman as an unrestricted free agent, Phillip Lindsay unrestricted, Melvin Gordon unrestricted. So you're going to need to hedge that somewhere in this draft. Question is where it comes.
I'll say, though, Najee Harris is a great prospect, but the sleeper of this class is Javonte Williams from North Carolina. I mean, he could be in a couple of years from now the RB1 to emerge. If the Broncos, if he falls to the second, if the Broncos want to go there, that would be the steal of the draft for them. I don't think they're going to prioritize it, though. They're going to bring back Melvin Gordon. They guaranteed his salary or a chunk of it for this season. They're going to put more than likely a second-round tender on Phillip Lindsay, pay him close to $4 million. They have Freeman. They might pick up a veteran running back, or they might draft one in later rounds. I just don't see any running back in the first 2 rounds for the Broncos.
Drew giving some props for Kelberman's corner today.
Thank you, Drew.
Appreciate that, dog. Let's grab this one here, John, from Tanner. Another newer name on Super Chat. Been great having you, and just keep it coming, my friend, and make sure you connect with us on Twitter. He says, what's up, you guys? Who do you think is a definite leave for the Broncos this year that's still on the roster? So a guy hit unrestricted that probably not coming back. I mean, DeMarcus Walker, to me, would probably be – I was going to say Elijah Wilkinson, but, dude.
I think he comes back. I have a funny feeling he signs a 1-year deal to come back.
They love him. I don't know if it's Munchak. I don't know if it's Cooper. someone loves Elijah Wilkinson, but it's either Eli. No, to me, it's DeMarcus Walker. Like, I think Shelby Harris, even though he's going to come at a bigger premium, is probably more likely to return than DeMarcus Walker.
Can I take the easy way out and say Jerry Atachu? Because that was a no-brainer layup. Him and Anthony Chicolo on the outside. And maybe Joe Jones. I know that's your boy, Chad, but he's hitting – he might be a restricted free agent. I'm not sure, but is he unrestricted?
Yeah, he's unrestricted, and he's not my boy anymore. I'm always going to wonder – no, for real. I'm always going to wonder what could have been with Joe if he would have really been given a chance to play some starter snaps. But at a certain point, you got to trust what the coaches are seeing day to day. And he couldn't crack even the second team, dude. Like, he couldn't be the guy that stepped in if Josie or AJ needed a break.
It's true, yeah. You've ditched him already. You moved on.
But great special teams maven for the most part. What does that do for you? It's worth about $750K. That's what it does for you. Drew, man, thank you, brother. Really appreciate that level of generosity.
Thank you.
A $50 super chat from one of our bona fide MHH Mount Rushmore superstars, going to be on the show a week from tomorrow night. And we look forward to that, bro. He says, I really don't think we need a veteran quarterback. Brett Rippon is smart. He understands the game very well, and he and Locke have a great relationship if you follow them on Instagram. That said, my preference for a vet would be Alex Smith or Tyrod Taylor. That's a position I know Kenneth Booker holds as well with regard to, hey, don't go spend $5, $6, $7, $8 million on backup veteran. Just roll with Rippon if you're going to run it back with Locke. And I do get that to a point. Like, I get there with you, Kenneth, and those of you who feel that way, Drew, about 75% of the way. But then I think, you know what? If Drew falls on his face, or God forbid were to get hurt again, misses time, I mean, guys, people go crazy over the Brett Rippon Week 4 performance against the Jets. He went 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, one of which was a pick 6, dude. So, you know, you got to wonder if he goes down, is that truly a guy that can keep the ship afloat either long-term throughout the season or even for a week or two while Locke, licks his wounds. So I have my doubts on that, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't worry too much about it if they opted to go with Rippon, but it just doesn't feel like, Zach, that's the way the tea leaves are pointing.
First of all, Drew, thank you so much. That's super generous of you. Second of all, I don't see a long-term number 2 in Brett Rippon. What I see is Kellen Moore, which is a great number 3 mentor, heady, smart guy to have on the sideline who's going to eventually, inevitably transition to coaching. He'd be a great quarterbacks coach, but he really does nothing for the Broncos in terms of his skill set. And again, we all laud him, or the Brett Rippon fan club lauds him for what he did against the Jets. But again, like you said, Chad, 3 picks in that game. I know he's still, raw and new and young and still learning, but he didn't really inspire much confidence. I don't understand the Brett Rippon fan club, like why there's so many members, why there's this groundswell for a backup quarterback. Is this like a Kyle Sloter situation all over again? Chad Kelly is the backup quarterback. Is it true, Chad? Is it always the most popular guy in any team?
It is if your team is struggling. That's just the way it goes.
I guess.
Like when Peyton was here, no Broncos fan gave a flying flip about Osweiler until Peyton went down and the Broncos had to play him and they won some games. Then he started building up a little clout, right, within Broncos country. When you're struggling, yes, that maxim is absolutely true, And in the case of Brett Rippon, I mean, I like him, don't love him. Dale from Paradise jumping in, one of our great superstars. Y'all got to meet Dale just a week or 2 back. He says, I'm hoping we get a corner or 2 in free agency. And that's actually a good segue to take a look at this piece real quick here, Zach, by the great Mike Evans, another stud that emerged from the community here in the podcast realm. Let me pull this up for you guys. This is Mike's most recent article that published today, predicting 4 free agents the Broncos could sign to rebuild Fangio's defense. And it starts, Zach, with 2 corners he likes: Desmond King, former Charger / former Titan, and Troy Hill. I like the idea of Troy Hill.
Same.
I have my doubts about Desmond King as like a bona fide set and forget type of free agent acquisition.
From what I remember about King, he was hurt a lot. I mean, he was a slot guy. He had some talent, but he was constantly injured. And that comes from the Chargers, the long line of Chargers injuries. I really don't want him. Troy Hill is definitely intriguing. And, Dale, rest assured, the Broncos will sign a cornerback or acquire a cornerback. Hill, though, he's among the best of the second-tier options below the Petersons, the Richard Shermans. He's going to be fairly expensive, though. And I'll say again, I don't think Peyton's going to spend too much on a cornerback. I think he'll use the resources in the draft, first round, second round, third round, a combination of those to rebuild the roster. Desmond King, he sounds good on paper. He has a name cachet, Chad, but the injury woes scare me.
I want to say he made a Pro Bowl his rookie year as a returner. But let's take a look here. 4 games he started as a rookie, as a corner, right, as an actual defensive contributor. 2018, he started half of them. 2019, he started half. 2020, he started half of the games. And 5 were for the Titans, 3 were for the Chargers. I think you're right on the injury front. Former 5th-round pick out of Iowa, right? Yeah, Iowa. So interesting player. I think he's a guy that if you can get him on a relatively team-friendly type of contract to come in and maybe be like a utility guy, play some corner, play some safety. He can do a little bit of everything. I'm not sure he's a straight-up boundary corner, though. You know what I mean? He's more of a utility guy. He's more like he's a little bit more talented Will Parks.
I believe he returns punts or kicks. I might not be right about that. He does, right, John? Yeah. If you go down, Chad, I think it'll show his stats on returning. And that's a nice, coup to have. It's a nice versatile weapon to have if you're going to, shell out money for a free agent. They tendered Deontay Spencer. He's coming back. But if you want to have a guy who can maybe add a little more explosiveness, I guess King would be your guy.
Yeah, he's got 2 punt returns under his belt for a touchdown as a pro. So he's got some bona fides there. I want to come back to the Mike piece here in a second, but first here, let's grab JB Garner on Super Chat. Thank you, my friend. Hey, connect with us on Twitter. So, we like to keep the conversation going there and give you some props. After this show, we'll tag you. He says, good show. Thank you. Can Deshaun Watson throw in the snow? I'm trying to think, Zach, if I've ever seen if I can think of a Houston game since 2017 that had him playing in the snow, but I mean, they're the AFC South for a reason, right? Rarely snows in Texas. Indy's a dome. Tennessee, you can play in some weather sometimes. Jacksonville, you're never going to play in weather. So that's one of the reasons why Peyton loved the AFC South for as long as he did. But that's a rhetorical question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly the answer to that, my friend.
Plus, he played at Clemson as well, and that's kind of a southern climate. The 2019 wasn't it 2019 he played against the Chiefs in the playoffs? Was that at Kansas City or was that at Houston? Because if it was maybe there was weather in that game, I can't remember. But nothing pops to mind seeing Deshaun in the snow. Richie
says, Zach, I'm curious why I keep hearing people using Mike Purcell as the reason to not look at interior defensive line. Purcell typically doesn't have the pass rush. Sheldon Rankins is my guy.
I didn't say not look at them. I said not overpay for one. I have no problem bringing in a Sheldon Rankins or, Roy Robertson Harris, but I just don't think George Payton, considering if he's going to bring back Shelby Harris, he cut Jarrell Casey again for his salary. I don't think he's going to make a one-to-one maneuver and bring in a guy like one of those 2 people who, like Rankins, he's going to draw decent money. If Shelby Harris is going to get like 7 or 8, Chad, I think Rankins should be able to top that.
Yeah. Inside Brett's head again. Thank you, brother. He says, what kind of offense does George Payton like? I wonder how big he was in the Kirk Cousins deal. If this is Shermer's and Vic's last year, who does Payton bring in? You mean to replace him? That's just there are a few names.
Name any offensive coach. That's going to be the next head coach.
It's going to be offense for sure. But what do we know about his offensive predilections? Well, all we can really go off of for sure, he doesn't get into, he's never going to talk about scheme. All right. That's ever. But nevertheless, all you can do is infer the teams, look at what's happened in Minnesota. I don't know if that was a GM thing, the whole West Coast offense deal, or if that was a Mike Zimmer push to have that kind of West Coast deal with Stefanski, and then, of course, Gary Kubiak. But even predating that, it was Shermer, right? It was Shermer's spread them out version of the West Coast offense. So I think he loves, Zach, the high percentage passes. Of course, you're going to take your shots, but I mean, the West Coast offense, which was coined and it's the brainchild of the great Bill Walsh. His whole thing was high percentage passing. It's like the long handoff, 3, 4, 5 yard dump offs that then, they can make a guy miss and it turns into 15, 20 yard pickup. that's the passing core philosophy of the West Coast, Zach. But where it began to change and evolve, where's the Mike Shanahans, the Kyle Shanahans, the Gary Kubiaks, who implemented that in tandem with the zone blocking and the deep shots off play action. That's when it really turned into a whole other thing. So I think that whole other thing, that's more in line with what George Paton is about offensively.
Yeah, that's a good answer, and I agree with that. In terms of Kirk Cousins, you have to remember that he wasn't the GM in Minnesota. They had a GM in Rick Spielman who ultimately, I believe, he had to sign off on the Kirk Cousins, the acquisition and giving him a new contract. What he believes and what we know about George Paton, he believes in continuity and keeping his core together and rewarding his younger players. They gave a lot of extensions and second contracts to players in Minnesota, and I believe that's why, at least I'm hopeful, that Shelby Harris and Justin Simmons and those types get done this offseason.
Shout out to to Johnny and Isaiah with their new podcast. Check them out. What is it? Nothing
Rhymes with Orange and Blue.
Yeah, check them out on YouTube, guys. They need some eyeballs. They need some ears. Another great podcast that is sprouting off of the stuff we're doing here in our community here. So give them some support over there. Aaron Lynch, again, good to see you, bro. Thank you so much. Number 2 super for tonight. He says, I appreciate the invite, fellas. I'd love to be on the pod, talk some football with you and the MHH family. We'll work it out. # bleed orange and blue. Yeah, dude. So just send us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and we'll make the arrangement, my friend. Christian in the house. Good to see you, bro. Hey, guys, weird question today. I'm just wondering if Zach lifts or goes to the gym. And do you guys see Woody Page's tweet about trading up with the Lions for Lance? Zach, start talking about the gym deal and I'll pull it up.
I mean, you can literally see there's a barbell in the background there on my floor. But yeah, I go to the gym fairly often now that everything's kind of opening up again. I would say I go about 5-6 days a week. It's just something I saw a tweet, and it's true, at least for me, that it's the most underrated form of therapy that there is. And for me, getting in the gym, it makes me feel better. I love it personally. I've been working out for quite a while now, so that's my deal.
So I'm looking here at Woody's timeline, and I know he had the piece that is you got to have the subscription to the Colorado Springs Gazette. So let me see if there was an individual tweet here. Bear with me one second. I'm looking here. That's from March 13th. Let me look at replies real quick. Stand by one second. I believe you that he said it, Christian. I just want to see if there's actual something we can show people, show the audience here.
Good to see you, Ian. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything obvious, but the idea of trading up, I mean, look, by the way, Dave, yeah, it says, I missed Kelberman's corner today. It's all good. We're just happy to have you, bro. That's the cool thing. Even if you're not in the lives, whether it's a live stream pod like this or one of the premium videos we're doing at Facebook, you can always go back on demand and watch them at your leisure, so long as you're a supporter like you, Dave. But look, if Trey Lance blew everyone's socks off, which is what I think happened. I think he really did impress some people. And if you're George Paton, obviously you had a reason to go there. Dylan Radins, yes, but also, I mean, you wanted to get a look. And we heard Paton talk about this in his presser, not this past Thursday, but the one before, Zach, about how it's one thing to sit and watch tape, and you can glean so much from the tape itself, right? Like that, if you're looking at it as a pie chart, probably 95% of that evaluation comes for personnel guys off of that tape evaluation. But that final 5% to really make your determination, in his case, for Paton, it's eyeball, being there and seeing it with your own eyes, which is why he's reserving some of his absolute judgment on Drew till he can see Drew in person. But he got to see that from Lance in what he already knows. I mean, Paton knows as well as anybody, these pro days are extremely, planned in advance. They're repped, they're articulated and practiced. That's a grain of salt. But if you're on the money, you're on the money, Zach. And Lance was on the money. So what do you think? Is that something that you could see them ponying up for?
There was so much overreaction, and I'm surprised and I'm not surprised at the Trey Lance Pro Day. I understand George Paton being there with Brian Stark, the director of college scouting, and also Mike Shula, the quarterback's coach. That made headlines, but like Paton said, he believes in exclusivity in his coaching staff. He believes in inclusivity as well, and bringing everyone together and doing that as a joint venture, unlike Elway, who went with Matt Russell, and pretty much that was it. This is what I believe the intention of the Trey Lance his visit to the pro day was. And beyond just due diligence, if in the event that Lance is available at number 9, and depending on how the Broncos feel about him, he would be an option. But I do not believe, nor do I think Trey Lance will be there at number 9. I don't think the Broncos will move up for a quarterback. If he's there, they will consider it, but he's going to go maybe top 3, top 4, top 5, Chad. They'd have to give up premium capital for that. And if they won't do that for Deshaun Watson, if they won't do that for Russell Wilson, what makes you think they would for an unknown quarterback in Trey Lance based on, like you said, one pro day that was completely scripted, tilted in his favor, and we didn't learn anything more than what we already knew. He has a howitzer for an arm. He was on target, but I want to see him under pressure. I want to see him in the NFL go through adversity and grow like a young quarterback on that roller coaster.
We just crossed the 1 hour mark, and John, from Mark, the next one I have is Mike Kane at 718 real quick. And in between we have the legend, Mundungus Creevy. We got Muhammad. We got Johnny, Corey. So Mundungus, Muhammad, Johnny, Corey, FYI. Mark Langley in the house. We're looking forward to having you back on the show in the very near future, my friend. Great to have you. He says, what's up, my guys? Hashtag Huddle Up Pod. Hashtag Hey John. Hashtag MHH. Love it, dude. Good to see you, Mark. And it's great to see you in all the pods, by the way. I know you patronize all the MHH podcasts, so we really do appreciate you.
Wait, real quick. Clifton, we didn't say don't trade up for. At least I'm not saying that. We're just saying it's not very likely that George Paton will trade up. I'm not saying don't acquire a franchise quarterback. I'm just saying it's not likely he will actually make that deal. Thank you for your time.
I'll say it. I don't think it's in the Denver Broncos' best interest to trade up and draft a quarterback. And even if Trey Lance is there at pick 9, I'm like, look, dude, fill your defensive holes, run it back with Drew, get a fail safe, and then you'll know for sure. And from there, if you can sell out, you can do whatever you got to do next year to get your quarterback, including moving mountains to trade up and be in position to land whatever next year's number 1 quarterback ends up ultimately being once that college season. I'm still of that opinion. I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but I still have some. I still think Drew's ceiling is pretty high up there. I know it's his floor. I mean, you worry about how deep that goes and well into the basement, but nevertheless, he's only scratched the surface. And I think the Broncos, my number 1 argument with Drew, it's not blind support, it's not blind faith. It really is based on logic and rationale, and that is you believed in Drew, you've seen flashes, you've suffered and gone through the trial and error depredations of having to develop him and go through those, take the punches of having to lose games because he's inexperienced, all that stuff. You've gone this far. And just when you might stand to actually start reaping the rewards of all that long suffering, you pull up stakes and move on to another option. You'll never know what you could have had in Drew. 1 more year. That's all I'm saying. Mundungus, good to see you, brother. He says something that hasn't really been talked about yet. If Fangio gets let go after the season, you don't think they would hire Mike Munchak as head coach, do you? He was their second choice. Good point, Mundungus, but remember, that was Elway's second choice.
The guy who hired him is no longer in charge of hiring. So he would probably be retained, I would hope, Chad, under the new coaching staff as O-line coach or assistant head coach, whatever, but no chance he becomes head coach.
Muhammad, we can't show your super sticker. The stream jumped it. So let us give you your love right now by saying thank you, my brother. Really appreciate you and everything you mean to our community. He says, what's poppin', my MHH fam? Y'all know I love you. The love is mutual, my friend. It is mutual.
And thank you for your support in KK today, Mo. Appreciate you.
All right. Do you have this one from Johnny? I want to give him his love. We already mentioned Johnny, but give him his love for showing us some super chat here. If you got him, if not, I'm going to grab him. There he is. Dude, are you putting coloration in that goat of yours, my dog, to keep it orange? You must be, right, for that orange? Nice. Taking it to a whole other level. What's up, Huddle Up? Lots of love for you guys. Hey, man. Appreciate you. Respect. Love you. Mike Kane in the house. Newer name on Super Chat. So connect with us
Mike.
On Twitter. Yeah, welcome. Restructure. Kareem and Vaughn. Free agent signings. Sign a corner, defensive line, quarterback, or trade for Foles. Draft offensive tackle, corner, defensive line, running back. Thoughts? In a perfect world, if you can restructure Kareem and Vaughn, do it. But in Vaughn's case, I think They had to wait till the 11th hour because they didn't know what was happening with this investigation that Vaughn was under by Parker Police. So that worked against the Broncos. Now they had very little time to try and negotiate or grind him down or get him on their same page with him with Peyton in terms of a restructure. I think more than likely he ends up coming back on his final option year. And Kareem, I think if they were going to cut him, Zach, they would have done him the service of doing it already. You know what I mean? Like, he's a Fangio guy. And if you're going to cut a Fangio guy, I'm thinking you do that to give him plenty of time to be out there on the market and let other GMs do their research on him, etc.
I don't know. I mean, they don't owe other GMs anything. And it could be a negotiation where, okay, Kareem, we want you around, but you have to restructure. And if you don't restructure, hit the bricks. That could still happen. You're missing a couple positions here, though. You have to get, regardless of Vaughn, another edge rusher and also an inside linebacker, Chad. I believe they will draft one, but that position cannot be ignored anymore. They need that coverage guy, sideline to sideline, and I would actually prioritize that fairly high in the draft. Not higher than cornerback, but fairly high as well. But I believe you're right on. They will sign a corner. They'll probably add some defensive line depth, maybe with Shelby Harris, another person, and then use the draft again to fill the majority of the holes. But don't forget inside linebacker. It is paramount.
Corey, and by the way, on the topic of inside linebacker, there are a couple of articles currently up right now. Let me just flash this really quick. There's a name that's been mentioned on this podcast before, and it was mentioned again today via Mike Evans, Jayon Brown, right, the linebacker from the Tennessee Titans. He's an interesting guy, Zach. If I were to say, hey, who can you spend some money on the free agent market at linebacker, it would be this cat. And it would be Wilson from Minnesota. Those are two guys that I wouldn't mind the Denver Broncos throwing a little money at. Otherwise, it's all about that draft class, because there are some studs in this draft class at linebacker. Those of you who were there for episode 1 of the Trickle Zone, you saw the top 10 linebackers for the Denver Broncos in this class. And Zach, I don't want to spoil it, but there was a lot of people were stunned Micah Parsons was not number 1. All right. And I'll have to leave you in suspense a little bit, but even guys like Jabril Cox, Dylan Moses, and maybe a little bit later in the draft, there are some guys in this draft that can help you check those boxes at off-ball linebackers.
And those who were around for KK today heard me mention Jayon Brown, heard me mention Eric Wilson as two linebacker options the Broncos could pursue in free agency. I don't think Brown is a super realistic option because he's coming off an injury that's pretty scary, and also the fact that Spot Track projected him to land $44 million over 4 years, $11 million a year. The Broncos aren't going to pony up for that kind of money when they're considering paying Von Miller. They have to pay Bradley Chubb soon. His fifth-year option is going to be picked up, Chad. Jayon Brown would be great. Eric Wilson, though, I believe is more attainable. He can play inside, outside. He comes cheap. He knows George Payton. He's productive. He's the walking turnover. I believe that's the guy to go after.
Corey H. in the house. Good to see you, brother. Really appreciate you. He says, yes, we build through the draft, but rookie deals do end. If we want to win, our window is opening now. The first big wave of rookie deals on our books coming soon. Free agency is important. Corner, DL, linebacker. Yeah, I mean, so let's see, 2018, 19, 20, 21. So Cortland Sutton's in a contract year. Trying to think offensively. The next year, they'll have a decision to make on Noah Fant, fifth-year option. That will get picked up. And then 2019, also that class in 2022 as a contract year will include Dalton Reisner. It's going to include Drew Lock, depending on how that whole thing shakes out. Then you get to the next year, and it's Jerry Jeudy, right, and KJ and Alberto. And I mean, it's coming. It's going to come in waves, but I think the first focus for the Denver Broncos is filling immediate holes, Zach, and that's what free agency is for. That's why you can afford to, if you're George Payton. And by the way, I just pulled this up really quick. Let me show you guys this. The Broncos at one point this offseason, before they tagged Justin Simmons, they were number 5 in salary cap space. By the way, this is the official base salary cap for 2021. It is official, $182.5 million. Broncos are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9th. So they're still top 10 with Zach, $31.5 million in cap space.
Yeah, that NFL cap will be like 250 next year when the NFL deals, the TV deals kick in and revenue comes back. But I agree, free agency is important. It's a part of the roster building process, but it doesn't mean you have to go out and sign the best available free agent. It doesn't mean you have to throw out the most money at the Patrick Petersons or the Richard Shermans of the world or the Bud Duprees at linebacker. You can settle for the Eric Wilsons. You can settle for the Mike Hiltons. You can dabble with signing players with helping your roster while simultaneously preserving salary cap space and allowing you the opportunity to build, rightly so, through the draft.
All right, we got KR, the queen in the house. Always off the top rope is Christy. Much love to you, my friend. Talk about a bona fide superstar, MHH Mount Rushmore. One of those first faces etched up there, Christy. She says, hey, guys, glad to catch the show tonight. Much love, and as always, thanks for all the dedication. Love the shirt, Chad. Oh, yeah, you guys want to see this? You missed this? I'm a big fan of horses, roosters, and locksmiths. That's what this means, okay?
Family-friendly translation.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Christy. And thank you again for your support in KK today. Thank you for your support, every podcast, everything you do. You are incredible, and we love you so much.
Amen. Real quick, John, because I know we're long. We're 10 minutes over, but we were late, so we'll run a little long. G Ward wants to know what we think about Zaven Collins, or not Zaven Collins. What's his name? Is it Zaven Collins? Tulsa. Yeah, Zaven Collins. I like him. I think he's interesting. This is why you need to become an MHH supporter so that you can watch the episode from Saturday from Eric Trickle breaking down his top 10 linebackers. I'll tell you this. Collins was listed at number 5 for Eric Trickle, and his pro style comparison, Jamie Collins. So go become a subscriber so you can get access to that and see the whole ball of wax, get your questions answered. Willie, in the house, good to see you, brother. He says, just here to say, hashtag lock for MVP. Not really, though. No, hey, dude, it's all good. Support your quarterback. Keeping it on the real, all right? We want to see Locke, throw 22, 23 touchdowns, keep it around 10 to 12 picks, 35 to 3,800 yards passing. That would be a really good season. And you would see the Broncos win a lot of games if you produce a stat line like that.
Hey, Willie, let him hate, baby.
Let him hate, dog. All right. Whoa, Dale. Wow. Top rope.
Wow.
Man, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. It was great getting to meet you a little while back and getting to chit chat with you before we went live. And you just mean the world to us, my friend. You and so many of our great members of this community, man. You keep us coming back night after night. So thank you, my dog. Seriously, blow us away. My only regret, you're not on Twitter anymore. But you were never all that active on Twitter anyway. But still, my only regret.
He's smart. That's why.
He says, I'm hoping we can pick up a solid corner in free agency. Good job, as always. Yeah, there's a few names, dude. We mentioned Troy Hill. We've mentioned Desmond King tonight. But King is more of he's just a DB. He can play safety too. He's not an expert boundary corner. You can play him there. But William Jackson III from Cincy is another guy I wouldn't mind seeing the Broncos throw a little money at. We mentioned Casey Hayward was released. Then there's the two big names, Richard Sherman and Patrick Peterson, both of whom I want the Broncos to stay away from, not because I think they suck, but because even though they've diminished in ability, they're long in the tooth, and they're still going to command a contract that is not going to be worth the squeeze on that.
If there's one position during the signing period next week that it benefits the Broncos, it's definitely cornerback, and not because of how top-heavy it is, because of all the mid-tier guys, the second-tier guys. And leading that list for me, as I mentioned today on KK, is Mike Hilton from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think a good scheme fit. He has the size, the tenacity, the aggressiveness. I think he would thrive in a Fangio system. He wouldn't break the bank compared to a Peterson or Richard Sherman. You can develop around him. He plays the boundary. All the guys that we've talked about so far, the Casey Haywards and the Kings, they're slot guys predominantly. That's where their wheelhouse is. The Broncos have that guy in Bryce Callahan. They need to find a boundary corner to replace A.J. Bouye, who you can see right there.
Peterson, Bouye, Malcolm Butler was another name, Zach, we've been getting questioned on Twitter about. Richard Sherman, Hayward, Justin Coleman of the Lions. Janoris Jenkins was mentioned by James in his piece. If he was a little bit more, if he ends up being more affordable than I think he'll be, then I wouldn't mind taking a look at Janoris Jenkins because I think he could do well under Fangio. Alfred, Hayden, Norman,
Alexander is another one from
the
Vikings connection.
This cat right here. Mike Hilton, there he is. Bashad Breeland, maybe, but he's more of a press man guy. Xavier Rhodes is my guy. He's another guy I wouldn't mind throwing a little money at, depending on, So for me, it would be Xavier Rhodes, in no particular order probably. Xavier Rhodes, William Jackson, Troy Hill. That would be my three, Zach.
Man, I thought Garyon Conley was going to be a stud, though. I mean, the Raiders got him. I thought he was going to be a long-time corner, and just never worked out for him. But I like Mike Hilton, Mackenzie Alexander, and Troy Hill. That's my top three. And the Broncos, there's a good chance, Chad, they're going to land one of them.
Yeah, they got to get one of those two holes filled in free agency, and then that frees them up to be a little bit more, less needy in the draft. If they don't want to take a corner at 9, they can afford to maybe, do something else.
Flexibility.
All right, we got 2 more from Brandon, 1 from Rocco, and then we got to say goodnight for today. Brandon, 2 supers. Thank you, brother. That's 3 for the night. You the man. He says, Bama Broncos. He loves that. Y'all do see that Trey Lance needs 2 years to develop. Yeah, Trey's going to need some time. Like even Mahomes, dude, needed time. When Mahomes was a top 10 pick, but he needed to marinate a little bit. And I remember, Zach, the 2017 training camp around the NFL. I mean, Chiefs fans were apoplectic because this first-round quarterback that their team drafted was throwing picks left and right. And they couldn't believe it. Like they're like, oh, man, this dude's going to be a bust. Alex Smith, they let him, Mahomes start week 17 because the Chiefs had locked down the AFC West. So Mahomes comes in and plays in Denver, beats Paxton Lynch. That was his first real exposure to an NFL opposing defense, and the rest is history. But he needed, Zach, that first year to kind of marinate. And I think that'll be the case for Lance as well, at least. Maybe 2. You could be right, Brandon. It could be 2. But it goes back to the point of any Broncos fan that thinks a first-round quarterback not named Trevor Lawrence is going to step in and save your 2021 season or take you from what would have been maybe a 9-7 team at best to a AFC West champ or competing for the AFC. It ain't going to happen, dude. It's just not going to happen. Quarterbacks take time.
And something that Trey Lance also needs, not just time, but I believe the right coaching staff, the right system. And do you believe out there, I'm truthfully asking you guys, do you believe that Pat Shurmur is the right guy to develop and coordinate and game plan with Trey Lance? I don't. I think any quarterback they would bring in this offseason would be a waste under Pat Shurmur. And then you fire him next year, you just wasted his rookie year, Trey Lance in this scenario, or Zach Wilson, Fields, Mac Jones, whoever. Like Chad said, it's not going to happen. It's not likely. And based on the way the roster is constructed, they have their young quarterback, and it's looking like they're going to get a veteran to go behind him, not a rookie.
All right, let's grab this one here from Rocco. Then I want to give some props to those who gave us some stars on Facebook, and then we got a dip. Rocco, good to see you, bro. He says, what's up, guys? Hope things are good. Yes, they are. Glad that the Watson mania has died down and we can focus more on free agency and the draft. I'm getting more excited by the day. Looking forward to awesome content along the way. # Mile High Salute. Yeah.
Thank you,
good
Rocco.
point. Rocco, this whole week, guys, you got to, I know most of you already have Mile High Huddle bookmarked, milehighhuddle.com. You're following all the appropriate social media accounts so you get the news as it's happening in real time. But make sure you're plugged in because Zach and I everyone on staff, but especially Zach and I chasing the news. It's going to be hot and heavy. Yeah, of course, we're going to do the roundups every night on the live streams and keep you apprised, but the articles and the videos and different things that are going to be coming out, breaking down the news, don't miss that.
I keep checking Twitter for that very same reason, Chad. We're less than 24 hours away from the legal tampering window opening, and this is where the rumors start flying hot and heavy about who's going to go where, deals being agreed to in principle, and all the rumors starting now. And I'm excited for the guys not named Deshaun Watson to be linked to and sign with Denver.
All right, guys, man, by the way, Greg, good to see you, bro. There's John. Good to see you, John. All right, real quick, let me find the stars, give everyone their props. So here's John. We got your question, and he says, hey, guys, really love all the content. Appreciate that, brother. About winning the chance for the Broncos to win or host a Super Bowl, not going to happen anytime in the near future, my brother. If they were a warm weather team, then it would be on the table, but very unlikely. I don't think the NFL loved that Super Bowl 48
exactly.
in New York. So they gave it a shot and didn't like it.
And the Minnesota one, too. That didn't go over too well. I believe, for the media and the executives in attendance. Kind of
Yeah,
cold there at that time of year.
Cold and just not conducive to, a media firestorm descending on a city. Gary, thank you. 6 weeks stars, my brother. He says, I feel Peyton puts our feet back on the ground. No pie in the sky. We feel you there. He's very pragmatic. Ian, 4-week streak on stars. You the man. Thank you, bro. Ian. Dave Glassman, good to see you. Drew, good to see you. Let me see here. Drew with some stars. 5-week streak you got going, my brother. That's awesome. Thank you, brother. Let me see here. John, again, thank you for the response. Much appreciated. You got it. Appreciate the stars again. Stand by, guys. We take care of our own here on this podcast. John with some more stars. He says, I don't think Fangio is the best head coach, but when we talk about a defensive coach, he's for sure an amazing person to have in your organization. Yeah, I mean, Zach and I will say it all day long, twice on Sunday, that Fangio has long proven, well before he became a head coach, that he's one of the best defensive minds in the game. Can he become also one of the best head coaches in the game? Remains to be seen.
That will determine whether he has a job this time next year. That very question.
Big Earn, you the man. Mark Knapp, you the man. Richard. Oh, did I get to the bottom? I think I got to the bottom.
That's current.
All right, guys. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for peeling off an hour and 20 minutes of your time tonight to be with us here on the Huddle Up podcast. Buckle up, because tomorrow night, man, when we return for the Monday show, it's going to be popping, dude. It's going to be a lot to analyze. And Zach, even if the Denver Broncos aren't super active on day one of legal tampering, we're going to see how these dominoes start falling. I mean, there's going to be a lot of deals that are consummated tomorrow, and it's going to be fun. Do you have any particular bold predictions for the Denver Broncos you want to get out there?
Well, they have to make a decision on Von Miller by Tuesday, I believe, that club option. So, that has to be squared away. My bold prediction is not something I agree with, nor I still think is happening, but the Broncos letting Von Miller hit the open market and decline that option is looking more likely every minute that goes by where that situation's unresolved. Bold prediction is they get Shelby Harris signed to a 3-year contract worth about $8 million per year before Wednesday or after Monday. Other than that, though, Chad, I think it's going to be fairly cut and dry, like we've been saying. I believe no surprises, no major blockbuster bombshell trades. I believe Peyton will take care of his own and then look to venture out of house with second-tier, second-wave signings.
We got Josh, a.k.a. Rogue Theory, jumping in at the 11th hour, just showing some love, guys. Go Broncos.
Thank you, sir.
Dude. Thank you, brother. Guys, I got to beat you over the head with this one last time. Go to Facebook, open up Facebook. Make sure you are following the Huddle Up podcast on Facebook. All right. So many of you have in just a week and a half's time. It's been pretty phenomenal, but go like and follow the page. All right. Hey, there's John. Go like and follow the page, and you will automatically be entered into our weekly giveaways on the merch side of things. And then here's the podcast on Twitter at Huddle Up Podcast. Excuse me. That's actually incorrect. That's my bad. Typo. Here's the actual Twitter handle, gang. At Huddle Up Pod. All right. At Mile High Huddle. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL. Myself, at Chad N. Jensen. Our illustrious producer, John K. MHH. You know him as Buona Beast on Twitter, at John K. MHH. For those of you weren't sure, merch store is huddleuppod.com. Go become a supporter. Go to our Facebook page of Mile High Huddle. Click the big blue button. You're in like Flynn. And please don't forget to like this video before you dip on out. Another super sticker from Mo. Love you, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Other than that, Zach, sign us off, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
We also, I believe, got some stars from Richard Trujillo, so we appreciate you, Richard. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Chad, like you mentioned, by the time we get on tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to probably have some news, if not definite speculation and rumors to go over. Everyone, we will see you then. Have a great night, a great end to your weekend, a great start to your new week. It's going to be exciting, guys. It's a week of podcasting Chad and I have been looking forward to for quite a while now. This is where Peyton's going to start to reshape his team and make it his. I cannot wait to see you guys tomorrow night. Be there, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.